A new airline sort of launching, some record-breaking developments at Airbus and Emirates boosting A350 flying. Why not begin with Koala Airlines? You may have heard of them before, but we know them as an upcoming Australian carrier. They say they're on track for a launch towards the back end of 2026. It is a brand that's copped a lot of criticism for its unrealistic business model, and it's seen its chief executive speak out about this. The CEO confirming that the intention has always been to keep a relatively low profile before launch. This does not mean work is not being conducted in the background to make the launch formal. By waiting in the shadows, the startup wants to create a foundation that ensures long-term success, rather than just a short-term stay in the industry, unlike other endeavours. Current estimates would see the airline launch by the end of next year, but notably at this stage, Koala Airlines has no aircraft to its name, alongside no key regulatory approval to begin the said commercial flights. Koala Airlines comes a year after the collapse of Australian low-cost carrier Bonza that attempted to serve underserved and unserved markets across Australia. However, this is not the model that Koala Airlines is looking to achieve, rather the opposite. This new startup wants to break apart the duopoly that has long dominated the Australian industry, consisting of the Qantas Group and Virgin Australia, with the former also including low-cost unit Jetstar. While airlines have attempted to break this in the past, all have ultimately failed to a certain extent. Rex was the latest to acquire jet-powered aircraft during the COVID-19 pandemic, only to fail and revert to regional operations. The Australian market from a domestic point of view is very hard to crack, something similar that has been seen across Canada, which has multiple new entrants into the market, some of course more successful than others, but the overwhelming majority have struggled to operate and turn a profit. No matter how Koala Airlines or the next carrier after them attempts to break up that duopoly in the Australian sector, it presents an almighty challenge, a task too high for most to overcome, and has more often than not led to a collapse. Additionally, these startups need to be able to sustain losses for quite a period, even if they are to eventually go on to turn a profit. And for startups, this is very challenging without having the backing required to take over what are two very, very major industry giants. As for Koala Airlines, they gained a lot of interest initially in August 2024. They're a Melbourne-based company hoping to create what they say is a fresh approach to aviation with a big focus on customer service. They'll look to utilise a domestic fleet of 737 MAX aircraft, the next generation single-aisle, to act as really the backbone of their day-to-day operation. On to the next story, and that's Airbus, who have broken a record. Their backlog is now exceeding 8,700 units as demand hits major levels. The plane maker has been able to sell aircraft recently, and sizable contracts as well, as airlines have scrambled to secure their planes for the future. Much of the intensity from airlines to commit to new planes follows a darker period during the COVID-19 pandemic, where these said companies were forced to readjust their priorities and put emphasis on restructuring over growth. However, as many of those global airlines exit restructuring, they can refocus on growing as a business once and for all to meet future demand, and as a result, there's renewed confidence in growth. With this renewed confidence, airlines are once more turning to aircraft manufacturers to either increase their available aircraft or transition from older generation planes to newer ones, which come with higher levels of efficiency over the departing planes. But with many airlines scrambling to purchase new aircraft based on their internal studies and plotting perfect delivery schedules, available slots for deliveries begin to disappear, making it harder for airlines that have yet to commit to aircraft for the future to get their new arrivals when needed, and especially if I'm focusing in on aircraft manufacturers' delivery slots. The leasing market still opens up as a possibility, but even that is seeing additional pressure now. With Airbus running behind on deliveries already, what fills the backlog is already coming with delays. The manufacturer attempting to work through this, but has ultimately struggled. To be able to work through the backlog in a healthy manner, it remains critical for the delivery performance of the plane maker to improve. This is one of the key risks for the business to progress moving forward. While deliveries aim to reach 820 by the end of this calendar year, the start of 2025 has been far from optimal, with slow delivery rates seeing the gap between itself and the American plane maker of Boeing actually reduce quite considerably, remembering this is years after seeing quite a healthy distance between them. While having those record-breaking backlogs is a massive sign that there's strong demand for air travel moving into the remainder of the decade and beyond. Meeting that is the next challenge that Airbus must find a way to overcome. You see, supply chains have been severely disrupted, and they are crucial to the production of new commercial aircraft. Airlines are beginning to get accustomed to month-long delays, at times stretching into years. This forces them to adjust program launch dates, retirement dates of older aircraft, and deal with the obvious financial and operational stress involved in having a delayed delivery. The quarter most recently ending in June showed the plane maker enjoyed a surge in deliveries. However, that surge, based on available data, was far weaker than the previous quarter. The reduction comes from lower than expected A320neo family deliveries. Deliveries across other programs were also slowed as Airbus faces major challenges, and with that, a generalised inability to raise the production rates to a level that would be required. Ultimately, Airbus finds itself in a position where it is not in the slightest struggling to acquire new orders. Its backlog is reaching record levels, but as I touched on, the challenge now is about working through that. Over to the next story, where Emirates is enhancing its service towards London with a fourth daily flight to be added to London Gatwick. Commencing on the 8th of February 2026 as EK6970, the carrier confirms the newest aircraft in its A350 will be deployed between the two airports. As a result of this latest route change, London as a whole has 12 flights across 3 airports operating daily. This means customers have more choice than ever to really select their preferred departure time and airport for greater flexibility. Emirates says the flights have been explicitly timed with the last flight of the day between Dubai and London in both directions, meaning the two cities can be tied more closely across the daytime. Additionally, the service arriving at 11 a.m. back into Dubai, well, that allows for the perfect time for customers to get a head start on their day while maximising the possibility to another service offered by the Dubai-based company. Keen to hear your take on this down below in the comments, alongside your thoughts on any of the other 2 stories. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. Please take care, do be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for your next industry recap.